Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and start. So good morning to you all. It's good to see so many of you. Welcome to this morning's webinar on newsletter production and publication. As many of you know, but some of you don't, my name is Sue Breyer, and I'm the state CTC chair, and my co-presenter is Marilynn Smith, and she is my vice chair of CTC. Now, our goal in putting together this particular webinar is for you to come away hopefully with some new ideas and then feeling a little bit better about putting together your newsletters or improving your newsletters, because as we well know, they are a lifeline to so many of our members, especially those who do not receive CalRTA information distributed electronically and only receive these newsletters in snail mail format. You have been provided with 3 handouts for this morning. First of all, you should have received a full PowerPoint where each slide is on a full page. That's in case you needed to have that. You also have a note-taking guide. We will be following these slides, so feel free to take notes on the note-taking guide as we go. But I think probably the most important resource is this handout, this webinar resource page, which contains many links to much of what we're going to be referencing in the course of the newsletter. So hang on to that paper. Those are active links. Keep it up on your desktop. Click on those links later and check out some of the things that we've shared with you. Depending on how much time we have at the end, if we have any time, we will address any questions that you have. Feel free, however, to open up the chat feature and type in any questions that you have as we move along, and we will be addressing those at the end. If it takes the full hour for the presentation, Marilyn and I will hang around for about 15 minutes afterwards, and we can answer any of your questions at that time. So we're going to get going. So the first topic that we need to cover is what should be included in your division newsletter. And the best place to start is the CTC handbook, believe it or not. The pages here reference page 30 to 32 cover newsletter production, but we're going to focus on page 32 right here, which is actually a newsletter checkoff sheet or a checklist that has 9 different items listed here. We will be addressing each of these items this morning, and so I'm not going to read them to you, but that is a good place for everybody to start to kind of go down that list and go, oh, do I have that in my newsletter? Do I have that in my newsletter? And then that will help you get going. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to our first item. Let's start with what we call the masthead, or the nameplate of your newsletter, and that is that horizontal bar that is at the top of most, if not all, newsletters that I have seen, at least. Now, the masthead that you see here, and basically the ones that are in a lot of newsletters, include many of those items that are on that newsletter checkoff sheet. This particular masthead is from CalRTA Diablo Vista Division 52. And I'm using it as an example because, as you can see by my numbers, it includes 5 different elements out of the 9 that are on the checkoff sheet. So as you can see over here, number 1, it includes the current, and I emphasize the word current, logo right here in the upper left. And the reason I emphasize current is, as Marilynn Smith and I have gone through each of the division newsletters that have been posted on websites, we have noticed that many newsletters are still using the old CalRTA logo, which is down here in the lower right. This is over 2 years old. We've had this new logo now for about 2 years. So make sure that you make a concerted effort to go into your newsletter or any other mailings that you send out and switch out that old logo and add the new one in. Number two, you can see that CalRTA is actually spelled out, California Retired Teachers Association. Now, that is critical because many of our newsletters go to non-CalRTA members, many of whom do not have a clue what CalRTA stands for. In fact, many people think it means CTA. They think that they're the same. So writing out California Retired Teachers Association in your newsletter, whether it's in the masthead or not, it's all about branding and making the CalRTA name familiar to the general public. Number three, as I mentioned before, it has the full name of the division and the division number. And right above it, of course, is the actual name of the newsletter. Some newsletters don't have a name, so you don't have to worry about that. Right below here, number four, is what we call the tagline, your partner in pension protection. You can put that there or in other places in your newsletter. They added since 1963, that was when this particular division was established. And last, number five, we have the state CalRTA website link, as well as the division website link. Now, 5 items, all in the masthead. So take a look at your division newsletter masthead, maybe consider making a few adjustments. I've adjusted mine twice already to include more of these elements, and you might be able to do the same. Now, other items on the newsletter checklist include the core purpose, as you can see over here on the right-hand side, the major goal of CalRTA, and I've included the mission statement down here as well. That actually should be added to the checkoff list. But these 3 items should appear in your newsletter somewhere. Preferably all 3 in your edition. Now, these can easily be downloaded from the state website. All you have to do is go into calrta.org, the state website, click that login button. When you get to the members page, click on Division Resources right here on the top. Scroll down until you get to Newsletter Production and Article and Graphic Fillers. And you can download these in all different sizes to accommodate whatever you need for your particular newsletter. We've also provided a link to access these on that resource sheet that I mentioned, the webinar resource sheet. So go ahead and use those links to access these. So let's talk about newsletter content. That's important as well. All the content issues here are listed in number 9 on that checkoff sheet that I showed you in the first or the second slide. Now, just so you know, there are 8 items or categories listed here. Please do not think that you have to cover all 8 of these in every single newsletter. You don't, okay? But this is to just give you an idea of the kind of information that you want to include in your newsletter. Also know that you have a number of resources at your disposal that you can tap into or borrow from and actually copy and paste and use in your newsletter. For instance, for communication and technology info, I put out the CTC update newsletter every month, as well as a periodic Share the Wealth handout. You may copy and paste any articles from either of those publications and put those in your newsletter. So the update and Share the Wealth. Your CTC area rep attends monthly roundtable meetings, and any of that information presented at the roundtable meetings can also be conveyed to your newsletter editor, shared with you if you're a division president or a newsletter editor, and add that to the newsletter. And perhaps you have a division communications chair. Have the communications chair check with the area rep and get some of that information from the roundtable meetings. Now, insurance and health is the next item here. You can write articles about Medicare. You can investigate high cap HICAP, long-term health insurance, CDC COVID updates. There are a number of different things that you can write about. The greatest resource here is actually the resource library. I've got that image down here. You can access the resource library on the state website, as well as the members pages of the state website. So look for the resource library, lots and lots and lots of articles and links. Legislation and advocacy. Every month, the CalRTA Connection newsletter comes out. It's an e-newsletter, so it's sent to you via email. Often has a lot of advocacy and legislation info there. So just take the information directly from that, put it in your newsletter. The advocacy action page of the state website, it's on the main page. If you click on advocacy action, any information on that page can be copied and pasted into your newsletter. Your division and your area GRC reps and chairs should be getting periodic information from Susie Dixon that can also be used. And the advocacy update videos that are posted on the CalRTA YouTube page, go ahead and provide a link to those and add those into your newsletter as well. For division activities and events, ask your board members to and committee chairs to write short little articles and print those in your newsletters as well. Ask your GRC or your area rep for information on pension issues or WEP, GPO, or any other items that are coming up, like school vouchers. Those are coming to the forefront. Provide periodically directions, simple directions on how to access your division website or how to access the state website. Many people have no idea how to log into the state website and get to the members pages. And provide contact information, of course, for your area and division leaders. But a word of caution on that, be sure that you avoid posting any personal contact information like a personal email, a personal phone number, or even a personal home address. Preferably use a division email address like division99@gmail.com, or even purchase what you might call a burner phone at the local drugstore and use that as the contact phone number for CalRTA for your division. So I'm going to turn this over to Marilynn Smith, and she's going to go into greater detail about newsletter content. And Marilynn, go ahead.
Okay. As Sue was talking about, the resource library is just amazing, absolutely amazing. The first time I ever looked at that, it was stunning. I couldn't believe there were so many sources of information there. Some are videos, most are columns, but all are really good. And I see that Debbie Pate Newberry keeps this updated too. The resource library, as Sue said, is located either on the main homepage for calrta.org, and you don't have to log in for that. You just would go into the website, scroll down till you find this graphic, and then you'll find it. It's also available once you're into the members section after you've logged in. So you can get at it in either way. You don't have to go back and forth to the public homepage. There are items in here that it's just astounding. From CalSTRS, for one, including items to help current teachers get ready for retirement. So if you know of anybody, that's a good place to direct them. There's information here about Medicare, about HICAP. There's information from state and county offices on aging, the Better Business Bureau, and lots more. It's just, you just have to go in there and just wander around and see what's there. It's just amazing. Once you log in to calrta.org, then in the menu on the right, when you're in the members section, the blue menu on the right, at the very bottom one says research. And that's another one, like the resource library, that has an incredible number of sources of information of all kinds. Information about pensions, articles for and about baby boomers, and lots more. There's a whole bunch of stuff in both of these, timely things that can be used in newspapers, especially if you've got space to fill and you don't want to fill it with something weird. The links for both of these, as Sue said, are on the resource page that she sent you. It says slides 5, 6, and 19. That's where you'll find the links for both of these websites, or these sections of our website. Okay. Still more sources of ideas and content for any spaces you want to fill are shown on this slide. When you type a division's, you may already know your own division's URL. So all the other divisions are the same. It's div and then the number, either 1 digit or 2 digits, and then .calrta.org. Go in there and take a look at their newsletters. There are some people who have really interesting stuff in their newsletters, and you might as well find it. And if you need to find where it came from, that's one thing, or take it from there. Just make sure you cite any information that you take from other people's newsletters. As Sue said, the CTC, the Communications and Tech, and the GRC, Government Relations, and the membership, MRRC, committees for our whole organization, all of them put out newsletters or other types of information. And you should tap into those. There's no reason why not. Plus, the Share the Wealth item that Sue sends out periodically. Sometimes it comes with the CTC update, sometimes it's on its own, or with another in another email. Across the bottom of all CalRTA websites or web pages, you'll find links to the 3 that are in the white box at the bottom of this slide. You can get straight to the CalSTRS website by clicking on that. You can get to AARP by clicking there, or to NRTA, which is the retired teachers arm of AARP. All of them are filled with information. The main thing that you need to do when you access other sources of information is to be sure you cite. And you can either go into, you can search for MLA or APA, whatever citation guidelines you want to follow. But really for websites, the URL is basically all you need. Just make sure that you are including citations. Okay. Most divisions include the membership application or enrollment form. And if your division doesn't, and you're thinking about it, then this slide will be, this and the next 3 slides will be, have a lot of information for you. If you already do, then you might check yours and make sure that it's complete, because Johanna needs all this information, especially, well, for everybody who joins, she needs all this information. Full name, that means first, middle, and last. Mailing address, phone number, maybe 2. She's starting to collect cell numbers as well as home numbers. And some of us don't have a home phone anymore, so the cell phone goes in the same column. But she's starting to try to separate those. And email addresses. The district that someone retired from and the year that the person retired. And then people can join either by cash payment or by dues deduction. If they're paying by cash or check or PayPal, it's one amount per year, $66 per year, paid annually, not divided up into months. That's something to make sure everybody understands. Or somebody can join by means of dues deduction, which means their dues are deducted monthly from their pension, and they hardly even know what's happening once they've signed up. The dues deduction section needs to include the complete, unedited legal notice that I know there are people who like to paraphrase it because they think it gets too wordy, but every single word in that legal notice needs to be there because this is contract language between CalRTA and CalSTRS that allows CalSTRS to deduct from different people's pensions.
Okay.
He said I could put it together, but it'll fall apart again.
Folks, we need you to mute your microphones, please.
Called Lauren and they're sending it out Wednesday, so when we get it, then we'll call and.
Thank you.
Okay, the legal notice is important because it's contract language between CalRTA and CalSTRS, and every single word of it needs to be there. Then, of course, all the information above, name, address, retired from, etc., plus Social Security number, signature, and date. Those need to be there if the person is joining with dues deduction, or as some divisions are doing right now, coming up with ways to entice people to switch from cash payment to dues deduction. They would still need to fill out the form as if they were applying brand new, but it's to get
Marilynn, where do I find the legal notice to make sure that I use it properly?
Check the next couple of slides. We have it on here.
We're gonna address all that, so we need to stay muted until we're done. We'll get to you.
Next couple of slides. Okay, and again, please make sure you're using the most current logo and the current CalRTA mailing address in Sacramento. Okay, this slide, if you go into calrta.org/join-us, and then you go into the apply by mail, this is the form that shows up on that web page, or actually on the PDF form if you download and print it. This side shows the need for first, middle, and last name, the address, everything, phone number, email, district retired from, year, etc. And this is CalRTA's current mailing address, 1750 Howe Avenue. This information needs to be there. Okay, move to 10. Here's where the difference in the types of payments show up. And again, this is on the back side or the second page if you print out that PDF from calrta.org/join-us. The legal language is there in the large red box, and all of it needs to be there. So since you have a PDF of this PowerPoint, you have the wording. And you can print it out and retype it, use it however you need to. But this is there. It's not a big secret, but it does need to be there. And if someone is joining by dues deduction, obviously, they would check that, and whether they're joining for themselves or for themselves and a spouse, So whatever the amount's going to be that's deducted from the pension each month. But that contract language really needs to be there. So if you need that wording, make a note to yourself that it's all on slide 10. Okay. Here's an example of one division, their membership enrollment form, that includes just about everything. Just about everything. First name, middle name, last name, full address, phone, email, district retired from. They must have had a membership drive going on because they put recruiter there, but that would be the place to put the year somebody retired. And then below are the two ways that they can join. One, annual dues, $66, check, money order, cash, I don't think so. But also on the website, if you go into calrta.org/PayPal, or not PayPal, but join us, PayPal will be one of the options. And in any PayPal link like this, you can also use a credit card or a debit card. So those are things to let people know about. If somebody's joining by dues deduction, and there it is again, dues deduction, and choosing whether they're going to sign up for themselves, the one person or person and spouse, and then all the legal language, exactly the way CalSTRS and CalRTA have agreed to it. And then the Social Security number, signature, and date. These are really necessary for dues deduction. And then the current mailing address for CalRTA Sacramento office. Okay, so if you need that legal language, slides 10 and 11 have it, and you can also find it online in the Join Us section. Okay, Sue?
Okay, thanks. So now we're going to look at some optional newsletter components that you may want to include in your newsletter. You don't have to, but they're just suggestions. First of all, let's talk about headers and footers. These are kind of fun. They're nice additions. They're very, very easy to use and to add to your newsletter. So if you put a header in your newsletter, that header can be inserted above the copy line of the newsletter, okay, up in that margin area. You can set it to appear on every page if you want, or specific pages. The footer then, as you can imagine, goes down at the bottom of the page below the copy line and in that bottom margin down there. Neither of those items interferes with the copy on the page, so, or the body's content. So they're nice additions. Now, as you can see from this top example here, a header can be pretty basic. It can include the page number. It can include, in this case, the name of the newsletter. And over here, the edition, the date of the edition. This would be November, December 2021. These can be customizable. You can put anything that you want in a header or a footer. These four examples here are footers, and they're all different, as you can see, very unique, but they all basically have the same kind of information. They have division information, like the name of the division, the division number, perhaps the title of the newsletter. Some of them have links that you can access in the footer. Here's a call to action in this particular one: stay involved, speak up, speak out, voice your opinion. Down here, we've got that CalRTA tagline, your partner in pension protection, the website, division number, the website here. So as I said, they're customizable. They're very, very easy to use. And if you look at that webinar resource guide that we provided for you, look at the link for slide number 12, and you'll be able to see some tutorials on how to add headers and footers, either using a PC or a Mac. So check those out and add them in. Now, most newsletters include some kind of table of contents and important state and division and even area contact information, but no two forms look alike, as you can see here. Now, the table of contents can be as detailed as this one here on the left. As you can see, nearly every page of the newsletter is represented, or it could be as limited as this light green one over here that only has 6 items listed. Some newsletters list all of their contact information in one space, as you can see in this example, or they combine the contact information with the table of contents, as you can see in both of these 2 examples over here on the right. And as far as contact information is concerned, if you take a look, you get area information, your area director, board members, officers, state and division website addresses, perhaps phone numbers, email addresses, Facebook addresses, and even CalSTRS info. But once again, a note of caution: if you're going to use personal or post-personal email addresses or phone numbers or any kind of personal contact information, please make sure that you ask permission from the person first, because again, these are posted in public formats like your division website or even on a Facebook page, and the information could be used for malicious purposes, should we say. So you've got to be careful with that. Calendars are also very popular in newsletters. They can be as basic as this one up here that just has a couple different entries, or they can be quite detailed and colorful as the ones that you see down here. But it's nice to give our members a heads up as to what's happening in the next month or 2 with regard to division activities. And as we open things up and we get to be able to do more and more things with our division, this is just a nice way to keep everybody up to date. Now, the last page of the newsletter is what we call the mailing page, and it usually has to conform to a particular format, depending on how the document is mailed. Most mailing pages are divided in half, so you can kind of see that you've got your upper portion and your lower portion. The upper section is typically devoted to the organization's mailing address, as you can see here in the upper left of each of these documents, and the postal permit number for your particular division's newsletter. This blank space right here in both of the newsletters, this is where the postal address sticker or stamp goes for mailing purposes. And the lower half can be kind of customized if you want. You can have contact information for your president, for Facebook, for your website, whatever. You can have your table of contents here. You can have your calendar. Here they have CalRTA's major goal put in there. So you can customize this lower half however you want. So do whatever you need with that mailing page, but keep the upper portion reserved for this information. Leave space for that mailing label, and then customize the bottom half as you like. Well, we've covered what should be included in the division newsletter. So I'm going to turn this back over to Marilynn. She's going to cover what we need to be careful about or what shouldn't be posted. Marilynn?
Right. As Sue said, if you're going to include any personal contact information, you really need to get each person's permission and make sure that people understand that this will be publicly distributed. So you want to be really careful. We're in the middle of days and days, weeks and months of spam, scams, phishing, whatever you want to call it, in email, on our phones, text messages, and even our US mail at times. Although I don't think US mail is fast enough to suit the scammers. Be very careful not to include their personal information in newsletters, except for those that have given you explicit permission to do so. Your division's our recommendations are that you use generic, or whatever you want to call it, division email addresses like CalRTA Division 99 at Gmail or at Yahoo, or whatever email client you feel like using. You can include that email address throughout your newsletters, and people will always be able to get in, ask questions or get information to you. There are a few divisions that have used and still do use prepaid phones, pay-as-you-go phones, or sometimes referred to as burner phones. I found one on Walmart's website for $49, and then you just pay whatever for the minutes that are used. I remember when my grandsons first got cell phones, and that's what they were using. They were using phones like this. It's not tied to any address, and so that's why it's a much safer thing to do. Be very careful about including photos of minors, children, teenagers, unless you have a photo reliability release form signed by their parents or guardians, one release for each child. There are some instances when such liability releases are held by the school, and that's if you have, say, photos of a band or a choir group performing at a luncheon. If those students were brought in from the school and then they go back to the school, they're essentially under the school's auspices. So the school has that liability release that they collect at the beginning of each school year. Some divisions also get photo releases for adults, and it's not necessary, but it's probably a good idea. Just to be even across the board, photo releases for everybody. And last Wednesday, people wanted to know who collects these. Generally, these are kept on file by the division's president. That's the most central filing place for these. Copyrighted images are owned by the copyright owner, the person who owns that copyright. So if you want to include a copyrighted item in any newsletter, you'd have to stay legal, you would have to go get the permission from each copyright owner. And that's a grind, probably sometimes impossible. So it's better to find items that fall into the public domain, fair use, or open access categories. You can run searches on Google or whatever search engine you use. Run searches for free clip art. And you can find lots of these items, even whole collections of items. And if you're on a Mac, you can run that same search in the App Store. There are a lot of different easy ways to get clip art and not have to deal with the copyright issue. And of course, you don't ever want to put a Zoom link and the meeting ID on or passcode in your newsletter, because remember, they're public and you don't want to be dealing with Zoom bombers in the middle of a meeting or a get together of some kind. Okay, these are things to be very cautious about. 17. Another whole area is to remember that CalRTA is a political organization. Yes, we deal with legislation and all the things connected like that. Though the GRC is the main body that steers us in the directions we need to go for political statements. Especially right now, fighting the WEP GPO and the upcoming petitions you'll probably see regarding vouchers. CalRTA is not partisan, however. Remember that we don't support individual candidates. We don't support specific parties or movements or anything that's political in that sense, anything that shows bias. So be careful about the things you do include. Actually, it's better to not include them. One of the best ways to keep this in mind is to go through, just get on the CalRTA website first without logging in and then with logging in, and just wander around and see what's included. And you'll get a feeling for what is to be, what you can include and what is not included. And remember, this came out of a cookbook once upon a time, but a good thing to keep in mind is if you're in doubt about anything, you should leave it out. Okay. Another thing that we don't want to include in newsletters is advice. We can give out all kinds of information, and that's a primary objective, I guess you would say, of your insurance chair or your health chair. They're very adept, usually very adept at providing a lot of information. And obviously we're still in the middle of this whole COVID thing, and more information is coming out. So provide information, including websites if you need to, for those who want to read more about it. Go online if they have internet, which most people do, but not all, I know that. But not advice. You don't want to tell people they must do this or they should do that. Make sure you don't copy and paste full or partial newspaper articles and just wholesale paste them into the newsletter. This is just plain old illegal. So just don't do it. It's stay away from that. You could probably summarize it and include the link, but full-blown copy paste is just don't do it. You don't want to set yourself up for anything like that. And make sure that whatever you use, whether you're paraphrasing or even if you're quoting from something that's not a newspaper article, of course, make sure you provide citations for everything that you borrow. For websites, a URL is sufficient. This URL that Sue's pointing out at the bottom of this slide is clear. It comes from the government. It's dealing with health and safety, and this particular page is dealing with vaccines. So anybody looking at that is going to know that if they click on that, that's the kind of information they're going to get. A URL is sufficient for things online. Other kinds of information that you borrow, you can take a look at any MLA or APA web page or book, if you have one, to see what should be included. Usually just author, title, and the year it was published is plenty. And again, remember, if in doubt, leave it out. It's a good caution to remember. Okay, those are pretty cautionary, but to move ahead with confidence, you can include articles sent to you by your division board members, your legislative chair, your membership chair, insurance chair, etc. Include information and articles you find on the CalRTA website, the resource library, the research section, the fillers. There are articles in there where it says, fillers. It's on the division resources section, where you'll find several articles, and it's been updated recently, and Debbie does keep that updated. So that's a good thing. Make sure, however, if you're using any of these fillers, that you give credit, that you cite the information. You can include information, as we've said before, from different CalRTA newsletters and other publications, connections, contact, division resources, whole bunch of advocacy items, membership items. The list is practically endless within CalRTA itself. And there are a lot of the links on the resource page that Sue sent out where you can find a lot of these things. If you're not receiving something, say you don't think that you're receiving information from the GRC part of CalRTA, then you can find who sends those out. And if you have a question, just send us the question at questionsforcalrta.gmail.com. And we can steer you to whoever has that particular distribution list. So there's a whole lot of sources for a whole lot of information. But even with all those things, focusing on local news for your division, local happenings, local events. One of the nicest things lately is just to go through the newsletters and to see the joy. You can really see it, the joy that is starting to show up in newsletters about having in-person luncheons again. That's something to celebrate. They're really neat graphic ways that you can do that. But focus on your division, on the communities that you represent, and build a community sense for your own division. Okay.
Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground on our discussion of content. So let's now move on to publication, printing, and distribution of the newsletter. Here are some publishing options to consider when creating your newsletter. I'm going to start with Publisher. This is the program that I use. I originally started with Microsoft Word and then moved on to Publisher shortly thereafter. I find this program to be very, very user-friendly. It was included in my Microsoft Office suite that came with the purchase of my computer. So that was convenient for me. And to learn how to use it, I went to this beginner's guide to Microsoft Publisher. This is about a 15-minute, just shy of 15-minute video on how to use Publisher. And so I found that very helpful, got a lot of tips on how to work with Publisher, and I find it exceptionally easy to use. So you may want to check out Publisher. Just a quick note, if you are not currently using Publisher, and if you're looking to purchase it, first of all, you need to make sure that it is part of the Microsoft Office suite that you purchase. It's not included in every single combination of suite apps. So make sure that Publisher is included. If you buy the suite, I think it's about $70 a year for the suite, or you can purchase Publisher as a standalone item for about $160. If you feel comfortable using Microsoft Word, and a lot of people have been using Word over the years, you can create your newsletter using Microsoft Word, accessing many of the templates that they provide for you. All you have to do is click on a Word document on your computer. Usually up at the top, it says more templates, might be over on the right-hand side. Click more templates. You're going to open a page like this. And right here in this search bar, just type newsletter, and you can use a lot of their templates, or you can design your own, just like I mentioned with Publisher. Just understand too that Word's main focus is word processing, whereas Publisher's focus is on desktop publishing, such as creating newsletters, catalogs, flyers, greeting cards, and things like that. So this is mostly just word processing, and this just gets a little fancier up here in Publisher. The third one is Apple Pages. Apple's Pages. So if you use a Mac, this is a very, very easy program to to use, very user-friendly. And as with the others, Apple's Pages provides a lot of different templates that you can use, or you can create your own from scratch. But for all three of these, just go on YouTube and search for newsletters, how to publish a newsletter. There are lots of how-to videos on YouTube that would help you along in any of these formats. So check those out. Now, divisions are using a lot of printing options these days for their newsletters. Many divisions are very fortunate to be able to access printing at their school district printing department or office, sometimes even at a discount. So you might want to check out your local school district printing facility and see if they can do that. Now, they just do the printing. I don't know of any that actually do mailing, so you would have to pick them up, address them, and get them to the post office to be mailed. Other divisions are using what we might call the one-stop shop option, like Office Depot, the UPS store, and FedEx Office. CalRTA actually has an agreement with Office Depot, and you should be able to get a discount on the printing and mailing of your newsletter if you go through Office Depot. If you would like to get that discount, this link is on that resource sheet that we have provided. Just look for slide 21. You can click on this link, and there's just a brief form that you fill out, and that will provide you with an account with Office Depot as part of CalRTA, and you should be able to get a discount using that. So check out any of these sources here. Now that your newsletter is ready for distribution, you need to determine and decide who is actually going to receive your newsletter. So obviously, send those newsletters electronically to all your members who have emails. To any division non-member friends, we have a whole list of friends of our division, CalRTA Division 33. They are not members yet. We're still working on them, but we do send them a newsletter every month. If you have a list of recent retirees from maybe from your local school district, they're not yet members. And if you have contact information for them, be sure to send the newsletter to them. Teacher grant registrants and recipients, if you provide teacher grants, our division, teachers can sign up for teacher grants. We collect their home emails, and that way we send our newsletters to them. Pre-retirement seminar, those who have registered for your pre-retirement seminars or workshops. Again, if they register using a Google form, be sure you collect those personal email addresses, those home email addresses. That way you can send them your newsletter. Local school and district administrators, they always want to know what's going on and how we are supporting public education. So be sure that you send to them as well. Principals, superintendents, your local city council, your local legislators, I would send to their local offices, not the state offices, but the local ones. Other CalRTA divisions in your area, and your area CTC rep. And of course, make sure you send one to me. I always love to receive newsletters from across the state. I really do. So make sure that you add me to your distribution list. Okay, so you want to send those out, but how are you going to get the emails and addresses for all of these various sources that you're going to send to? Well, I would start with Johanna Hobbs. And just a footnote here, it's nigh to impossible to get email addresses for any of these people that I just mentioned. It's so very, very hard. But if you can at least get their home addresses, that's your foot in the door. So you can get home addresses from a lot of these sources. So Johanna Hobbs in the business office, she works with CalSTRS information, and she gets mailing addresses and has mailing addresses for retirees in your local area going back to 2014. So she has a complete list of postal mailing addresses for any retirees through CalSTRS going back from 2014 to 2019. She is currently working on 2020. So you can contact Johanna Hobbs in the business office. This is her email address. You can always request from your district human resources department. They will probably give you names, but they're probably not going to give you much else other than that. Teachers unions sometimes will provide you with a postal address, but rarely will they give you email addresses, but you never know. So check with teachers unions. If you're looking to send to your local representative, you can go to this web address right here and look for the local mailing address, and you can send it snail mail, and you might be able to get an email address. If you can get mailing addresses by using these sites, searchpeoplefree.com. Again, this one is free, but whitepages.com, you might have to pay a small amount, like a monthly fee. You can get phone numbers, you can get some recent mailing addresses, past mailing addresses, landline phones, and things like that. If you want to contact local school principals and superintendents, I would suggest that you go to the CDE website and look at their school directory. So all you have to do is Google CDE school directory and type in the name of the school, and the information pulls up and you can get the principal address. If you type the name of the district in, you can get the superintendent. And as I mentioned earlier, if you use Google Forms for pre-retirement event registrations, teacher grant applications, or even any community event that you're hosting, collect those home email addresses, and so you can send out newsletters to those people. Okay. Now, publishing your newsletter. Of course, you're going to want to publish your newsletter on your division website. Marilyn and I have gone through pretty much every division website in CalRTA. We still have some divisions that do not have one newsletter posted. We really strongly urge you to get one newsletter posted there. When new members join CalRTA, Johanna Hobbs directs them to this website, to your website, and that's probably one of the first things they look for is the newsletter. You can also post on Facebook, as you can see here. And once again, if you have contact information, you can either black that out or you can remove that contact information, or make sure you get permission to post it from whoever's information you're posting. If you're not sure how to post in either of these places, if you look on the resource sheet that we gave you, slide number 24, it's at the bottom of the sheet. Newsletter tips number 4, this short video will provide a tutorial on how to post in both of these spots. So that is our webinar for today. I want to thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, questions for CalRTA@gmail.com.